They will try to know you, to map your soul as if it were a coastline to be charted and conquered. But a known man is a predictable man, and a predictable man is already defeated. Power does not belong to the transparent. It belongs to those who understand the strength of concealment, to those who speak little, reveal less, and allow others to fill the silence with their own illusions. If they believe they've understood you, they will cease to fear you. And when fear evaporates, loyalty follows. Not because they hate you, but because they no longer need to calculate around you. And a man who causes no calculation is a man who causes no consequence. To lead is not to be loved. To lead is to be reckoned with. Mystery is not deception. Deception is a tactic. Mystery is structure. It is the architecture of presence, the shadow that causes unease, the pause that demands interpretation. It is the invisible perimeter around your thoughts, around your motives, that forces others to act carefully, that forces them to consider your silence as strategy, not absence. Do not spill your ambitions into the air. Do not offer your intentions as if they were gifts. The moment they understand your desires, they will begin to shape them, bend them, or weaponize them. They will make tools of your goals, prisons of your dreams. Your mystery is not a mask, it is your armor, and yet how easy it is to surrender it. In the hunger for connection, in the desire to be understood, in the vanity of confession, you want to be seen not for your face, but for your mind, for the movements behind your eyes. But in politics, in leadership, the more they see your soul, the more they know where to aim. To be powerful, you must become terrain uncertain, treacherous, impossible to cross without risk. They will come to you bearing flattery, seeking your thoughts. They will ask what you think, who you trust, what you fear. Do not answer, not fully, not directly. Offer fragments, offer shadows. Let their minds do the work of completion. They will betray themselves in the space you leave unspoken. Men are not loyal to what they understand. They are loyal to what they cannot control. Predictability is the death of dominance. If they know what you will do next, they will no longer need to listen. They will speak over you, maneuver around you, replace you. You do not need to be cruel. You do not need to be loud. But you must be unreadable. Even your kindness must carry the suggestion of design. Even your mercy must taste of calculation. Because in the theater of power, every gesture is seen as a signal. And the naive man, the one who acts from pure feeling, from unguarded honesty, will be interpreted not as noble, but as weak, not as courageous, but as exposed. Power does not belong to those who feel deeply. It belongs to those who feel precisely and share nothing they cannot afford to lose. When you speak, do not aim to explain yourself. Aim to create uncertainty. Speak in terms they must decode, not to confuse them, but to force them to think, because when they are thinking, they are not rebelling. When they are analyzing, they are not resisting. They are dancing inside the maze you've built. Every ruler is a playwright, every word is choreography, and if your movements become obvious, the theater collapses. You are no longer feared, only watched. You are no longer followed, only measured. There is a reason ancient generals used smoke before an attack. Not only to obscure their movement, but to heighten the tension, to make every sound seem sharper, every silhouette more dangerous. Mystery magnifies power. It multiplies presence. It slows the enemy's hand. You are not obligated to be known. You are obligated to endure. And to endure, you must remain partially hidden, not out of cowardice, but out of necessity. There is no crown without shadow. No throne without silence. The state does not need your transparency. It needs your competence. It needs your restraint. The man who governs must not be a mirror, but a question. And when they cannot answer that question, they hesitate. And hesitation is the soil of control. Let them guess your allegiance. Let them wonder if you've already moved against them. Let them ask themselves what you've seen, what you've heard, what you've planned, and let the silence tighten around their confidence. It is not what you say that commands, it is what you refuse to reveal. Let others exhaust themselves in self-expression. Let them bleed meaning into every room they enter. Let them post their soul across the walls of public life. They will believe this earns trust. But trust built on exposure is not real trust. It is consumption, and the moment they are fully consumed, they are discarded. Value decays in proportion to availability. If they can define you, they can replace you. You must become more than a man. You must become a force, a presence, something they invoke when they weigh their decisions, not someone they text when they seek approval. Distance creates reverence. Ambiguity breeds caution. And caution keeps you alive. This is not loneliness. This is structure. It is the scaffolding that holds the edifice of command. You cannot be both deeply understood and deeply obeyed. To be followed, you must create a sense of necessary distance, a perimeter of unspeakable calculation. Do not offer them closure, offer them tension. That is how leaders are remembered, not for their transparency, but for their unknowability, not for their words, but for the weight of their silence. Not for being like others, but for making others shape themselves around you. When they gather in rooms and speak your name, let there be no agreement. Let half of them defend you, and the other half fear you, and let neither feel certain. You do not need to be liked. You do not even need to be loved, but you must be interpreted, and interpretation gives you the stage. The value of a ruler lies not in how he is perceived, but in how he is processed. If they cannot predict you, they cannot replace you, and if they cannot replace you, they will preserve you. They will protect your myth. Even when they resent your silence, they will lean toward you, hoping for a gesture. Even when they curse your distance, they will orbit your gravity, because mystery does not repel, it pulls. And once pulled, they do not leave. They wait, and a ruler who is waited for is already winning, so leave something unsaid. Let there be a door they cannot open. Let there be a motive they cannot name. Because your value is tied to your mystery, and your mystery is the first shadow of your power. They will tell you to be authentic, that in a world addicted to performance, the only true rebellion is sincerity. They will praise vulnerability as a virtue, a sign of courage, of integrity. But in the domain of power, authenticity is not freedom, it is exposure, and exposure is leverage for someone else. To rule is to be aware of what cannot be given away. Every emotion you show becomes a data point, every confession a liability. The more human you appear, the easier you are to hurt. The easier you are to manipulate. The moment they know what softens you, they will use it to sharpen their knife. You must learn to look human without ever being fully seen. Leadership is not authenticity. Leadership is orchestration. It is the art of being exactly what is needed, exactly when it is needed, without ever becoming the tool yourself. If you want to keep the instrument in your hands, you must remain unreadable. That is the paradox of command. You must appear to belong, while never truly being part of the crowd. People trust what they think they understand, but they follow what they cannot predict. There is an instinct buried deep in the human mind, a primitive reverence for what we cannot explain. In every culture, every age, this instinct has given rise to myth, to legend, to god-kings. The unknown has always had more power than the known. And you, if you are to rule, must channel this, not as superstition, but as political form. Do not explain yourself. Be interpreted. The most dangerous man in the room is not the loudest. He is the one who speaks last and says least. He is the one whose silence is studied more carefully than the speeches of others. Because in that silence there is potential, and potential always outweighs certainty. Certainty is finite. Potential is infinite. They fear not what you have done, but what you might do. So always preserve a next move. Never reach the point where you have spent all your strategy, all your mystery, for the sake of winning one battle. The ruler thinks in campaigns, not skirmishes. He is never fully spent, never fully known. He survives not because he is invulnerable, but because he never lets the enemy understand his limits. They cannot outmaneuver what they cannot measure. And yet, mystery alone is not enough. It must be paired with action, with presence. A shadow that never moves is forgotten. You must strike not often, but with precision, so that your silence is not mistaken for passivity, but felt as pressure. You do not need to crush them, only to let them know you could. Power is not domination. It is the suggestion of inevitable consequence. There is a quiet terror that governs most political systems, the terror of not knowing where the true center lies. The smart ruler cultivates this. He does not sit visibly on the throne. He makes the throne a moving object, an elusive gravity that others chase, speak to, plan around, but never hold. You must become a center of gravity, not a pillar. Pillars are visible, they are known, and they can be knocked down. But gravity cannot be struck, it cannot be removed. It bends everything toward itself without appearing to act. That is the height of control when your enemies orbit you, even while they believe they are free. In politics, perception is power. But not just the perception others have of you, the perception they believe you have of them. When people believe you see more than you say, they behave. Not because you told them to, but because they begin to edit themselves in your presence. Self-censorship is the most effective form of obedience. To create it, you do not need violence. You need presence, calculated presence, and mystery. When they believe you are always 3 steps ahead, they stop trying to catch up, they start trying to survive. Let them fear being misunderstood by you. Let them believe you see their weakness even in their strongest moment. That is the edge you carry, even when you say nothing at all. In war, you destroy your enemy's body. In politics, you must reach deeper. You must occupy their mind. This is not done with speeches. It is done with suggestion, with gestures that linger, with decisions that seem to echo in rooms long after you've left, with eyes that hold just enough silence to make others question themselves. If they are uncertain about you, they will be cautious. And if they are cautious, they will be slow. And if they are slow, you will always move faster. You win not by convincing others, but by making them doubt themselves. Power is not possessed. It is performed. The moment you stop performing it, it begins to drain. But performance does not mean fakery. It means calibration. Knowing what version of yourself to present to each room, each person, each moment. Knowing when to retreat into stillness, when to explode with force, when to vanish entirely. You are not lying. You are sculpting perception, and in the arena of power, perception is reality. So let them write books about you. Let them speculate in the press. Let them whisper theories behind closed doors. Give them material, but never the full picture. The full picture is death, because once they believe they understand the whole of you, they will dismantle it piece by piece. Leave a part of yourself untouched. Not even for the world, for you. A room that no one enters, a motive no one touches, a silence no one deciphers. That is where your strength lives. And when everything else burns, your alliances, your public image, your throne, that untouched place will remain. And from there you will rebuild, again and again. Because true power is not in what they see. It is in what they cannot see and know they never will. Do not mistake transparency for trust. They are not the same. Trust is built through reliability, through consequence, through the awareness that your presence changes the room, that your word, once spoken, becomes fact. But transparency is a liability marketed as virtue. It invites inspection, it welcomes interference. It seduces the naive leader into thinking that to be seen fully is to be safe. But in truth, only that which is unseen remains beyond control. The modern ruler, the one who survives the cycles of betrayal, the theater of alliances, the corrosion of time, is not the one who speaks loudest or moves most quickly. It is the one who can disappear in plain sight, who speaks in layers, who reveals just enough to provoke attention, but never enough to be deciphered. You must be fluent in opacity. And yet, you must appear open. This is the paradox of mastery in our age. You must seem sincere, accessible, human, while guarding every strategic truth beneath 10 layers of performance. The appearance of vulnerability disarms your rivals, but true vulnerability, that is suicide. Control the narrative of your own soul. Do not surrender it, not to friends, not to followers, not even to yourself if necessary, because once a man believes he fully knows who he has ceased to evolve. And a ruler who does not evolve is soon outmaneuvered. The great leaders of history, the ones who left nations carved in their image, did not traffic in emotional honesty. They trafficked in tension. They made others watch. They made others wonder. And in that space of watching and wondering, people projected power onto them. That projection became belief, and belief became loyalty. This is not manipulation in the petty sense. This is architecture. You are not deceiving people for sport. You are building a structure around yourself, one that channels human instinct, that draws out reverence, that instills discipline without the need for violence. If you do it well, you will not need to command. They will want to obey, because humans do not serve mere men. They serve symbols, they serve stories. Become one, but not by shouting, by subtracting. The less they know, the more they project. The more they project, the more they invest. The more they invest, the harder it becomes for them to let go, even when they begin to doubt. Especially when they begin to doubt. Doubt, properly wielded, becomes devotion. Let them think they almost have you. That with one more conversation, one more look, they might finally understand your mind. Keep them reaching. Desire grows in distance. Familiarity breeds not only contempt, but apathy. And apathy is the quiet death of power. This is why rulers fall not because they are hated, but because they are known too well. They become routine, predictable, excessively human, and then, when the crisis comes, their words hold no gravity, their silence no longer signals danger. They are heard, but not felt. Seen, but not watched. Presence, once it is fully understood, becomes ignorable, and the ignorable are discarded. A leader must never allow his presence to become background noise. You must remain anomaly, suspicion, reverence. Let them laugh at others. Let them mock their rivals, but let your name fall with a weight. Let it silence the room. Let it carry the gravity of consequence, not because you speak often, but because when you do, the ground shifts. To reach this state, you must discipline not only your actions, but your instincts. You must resist the urge to explain, resist the hunger to be liked, resist the temptation to clarify, to soften, to justify. Clarification is for subordinates. Ambiguity is for rulers, not because ambiguity is morally superior, but because it creates strategic asymmetry. They must guess, you must choose, they must wait, you must act. They must hedge, you must strike. This is how power is preserved, not by dominating others, but by denying them symmetry. Never let the game be fair, never let the stage be level. You are not competing, you are curating the conditions of competition. That is sovereignty, and sovereignty begins in mystery. So let others mistake your quiet for detachment. Let them assume your calm is weakness. Let them whisper that you lack conviction. These are the errors that let you move, the misunderstandings that open doors but never correct them. Let the rumors spread, let the assumptions multiply, because the most dangerous move you can make is to let the world underestimate you until it's too late to stop you. Then strike, cleanly, unemotionally, and disappear again into your silence. Do not explain the strike, do not gloat. Let it echo. Let the fear do your speaking for you, because once they realize you do not need applause, they will understand that you do not need them. And in politics, the man who needs nothing becomes the man who controls everything. Want less, show less, reveal less. Let others overreach. Let them bleed their ambition into the open. You will collect it later when they are spent, and you are still intact. That is the essence of statecraft. Not winning every moment, but surviving every moment intact enough to win when it matters. This is not cynicism, it is precision. You must know when to be visible and when to become myth. When to appear generous, and when to withdraw so far that your absence becomes a question that haunts them. Mystery is not the enemy of order. Mystery is the crucible of control. And your value in this age of exposure, noise, and self-display will not come from how loudly you speak, but how little they can see of your mind. So bury your intentions, polish your silence, and let your myth do the work your words never will. They will beg for certainty, plead for clarity, demand that you show your hand as if it is their right to know the architect of their fate. Do not yield. The impulse to explain is always an act of weakness. It reveals that you seek approval, that you fear being misunderstood. But power does not fear misinterpretation. It uses it. It bends confusion into command. The moment you begin to explain, you give them a foothold. They will seize it not to understand you, but to control you. Every answer is a thread they will try to pull. And every thread they pull brings them closer to unraveling the structure you built. So do not give them the thread. Let them stare at the tapestry and wonder how it holds together. This is not arrogance. This is design. There are two kinds of rulers, those who chase legitimacy and those who become inevitability. The former seeks permission, the latter removes alternatives. The former explains. The latter acts. Do not seek to be justified, seek to be inevitable. That is the difference between the prince who is tolerated and the prince who is feared, obeyed, remembered. The ones who are loved today will be cast aside tomorrow because affection is fragile. It shifts with the weather, with the winds of gossip, with the poison of a single scandal. But awe endures. Because awe is rooted in the unknown. It is not affection that makes a man unassailable. It is uncertainty. They must not know what you are truly capable of, only that you are capable of more than they can predict. That your restraint is not weakness, but choice. That your silence is not confusion, but calculus. And that if you were ever to act without restraint, the ground beneath them would fracture. Fear is not cruelty. Fear is architecture. The state survives not on idealism, but on thresholds, on the silent awareness that there are lines which must not be crossed. And you, as the sovereign, must be the guardian of that threshold. Not with words, not with threats, but with presence. Let your presence be the threshold. Let your arrival still the room. Let your absence speak louder than the declarations of lesser men, because in the end, the measure of power is not how many obey you when you speak, but how many obey you in your silence. When they ask what you intend, offer them a smile and say nothing. When they ask whose side you are on, offer them a toast and change the subject. When they ask where your loyalties lie, look at the sky. Let them wonder. Let them spin their theories. Uncertainty slows the blade, and while they are hesitating, calculating, adjusting, you are already positioning. You are already rebalancing the map, redrawing the center of gravity, setting the next consequence in motion. This is how the world is moved, not through loud declarations, but through the slow, deliberate, invisible pressure of a mind that is never fully shown. Reveal nothing fully, ever, not your next move, not your true fear, not your end game, especially not your end game. They will ask you where it all leads, why you are building what you build, why you choose silence when noise would make you loved, why you walk alone when alliances are easier. You will not answer, because to answer is to give away the only thing they cannot take, your direction. You must guard it more fiercely than any territory, any treasure, any crown, because direction, true direction, is the rarest form of power. Most men wander, some follow, a few lead. But the one who knows where he is going, and never says, owns the tempo of the age. He becomes not just ruler of men, but architect of time. This is your task: to move without being seen, to decide without applause, to shape without being recognized as the shaper. And one day they will look back and realize the landscape of power changed while they were watching other fires. They will trace it back every fall, every rise, every silence, every hesitation, and see the same shape, the same void, the same absence that acted like gravity. They will see you. But by then, you will be beyond reach. Beyond name, beyond replacement. You will not be remembered as a man. You will be remembered as a shift, and that, above all, is the only power that lasts. So do not become legible. Do not become familiar. Do not become accessible. Become inevitable, because your value in every game of power, in every stage of command, is tied to your mystery. And your mystery is the echo of your will, sharpened by silence, perfected by time, untouched by the hands of those who think they deserve to know you. They don't, and they never will. So you stand now at the edge, not of a battlefield, but of a decision, not a moment of action, but of formation. Will you step forward as one more visible man, eager to be understood, to be embraced, to be devoured by the appetites of the crowd? Or will you vanish into the architecture of your own design, measured, unreadable, a force felt more than seen? Because in the end, this world does not belong to those who bear their soul. It belongs to those who shape the souls of others without ever revealing the shape of their own. Let others chase clarity. Let others hunger for exposure. You will remain the question they cannot answer, the presence they cannot replace, the shadow that governs without chains, the silence that dictates movement. And when the world forgets the noise of others, it will still feel your weight, because mystery is not your mask, it is your crown, and your value will always be tied to it. Now walk away, say nothing, and let the silence deepen your power.